Pop art. Once you got pop art, you could never see a sign the same way again, says Andy Warhol. And once you thought about pop, you could never see America the same way again. You couldn't go into the grocery store anymore and see things the same way. Elevating the everyday image to the status of art changed the world and changed the way we see things. Signs became art. Graphic, bold, beautiful, bright colors became interesting. Sprang up in the 1950s and had run its course by the end of the 1960s, but its influences are still felt today. As you can see, pop art blurred the line between what was museum-worthy art and what people every day in their lives were bombarded with as far as images. Coke bottles, Campbell's soup cans, advertising signs. Graphic designers who had worked for magazines now considered themselves to be artists. The everyday image was elevated. As far as where pop art lies in art history, the 1940s into the 1950s were dominated by a very kind of macho, grandiose type of art called abstract expressionism. Abstract expressionism sprung from who other than Van Gogh, who was the first expressionist, expressing your feelings. Pop art had none of those concerns. It didn't care about feelings. It cared about the immediacy, the in-your-face, bold graphic design. Pop artists used common images from ads, products, celebrities who, when you think about it, are really a product, and photographs. They used graphic, bold, bright colors and took their compositions not from the rule of thirds or the golden ratio, but from advertising, murals, billboards, things that you see every day. Their materials also reflected the time. They used, instead of oil paints, they used acrylic paints. They used photographs. They used metallic and fluorescent colors. They even used some experimental techniques like this Claus Oldenburg hamburger, which is huge. It's probably as big as a double bed. Okay? They used these new technologies. It was all about the new and the exciting time. Okay? Some people, although they might have liked pop art, some people think it's just not deep enough. Andy Warhol once said, "I am deeply superficial." It makes you think, is there anything underneath the surface? It's up to you to decide. Andy Warhol was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He was one of the most famous pop artists, and his legacy continues today. In the following chapters, we will learn about him, but he was famous for films, silk screening, repetition, collaboration, media production. He used images without permission from things he saw in magazines and newspapers and photographs that celebrities would send to him when he wrote them letters. This is called appropriation. He also used repetition as perhaps a commentary on how many images we see during the day. The news cycle. Something happens in the world and we are bombarded with it constantly until what? Something else happens. And then we're bombarded with that. Andy Warhol repeated his images to kind of give a sense that, of this total immersion in one single thing before we move on to the next. He also said that in the future, Everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. Pop artists really stretched the definition of what art could be and how it could be made. Its legacy continues today in contemporary art, in the colors that we see in the billboards and the magazines and the TV commercials and the internet ads that we see. The colors, the layout, the composition, that's all been affected by pop art and Andy Warhol. Let's learn a little bit more about Andy Warhol as we move through this reduction printmaking lesson. Thank you very much.